This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
So there was this Deadline article where they let it slip that Amazon had the rights to it. However, it was sort of a weird article and a weird reference, and no one's confirmed or denied it. So right now, the leading candidate is Amazon to have it. But that's based on kind of a sketchy article that has neither been confirmed nor denied.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I'd like to see that happen because, either Netflix or Amazon, they have the kind of money and the production quality that I would like to see go into the show.
And the freedom to explore the kind of show it needs to be, whereas any sort of network television is going to have, you're going to end up with something like the Shannara Chronicles, which is very MTV.
Yeah, I heard it
terrible.
Flopped. I never watched it.
Oh, it was terrible.
Honestly, I just thought the books were okay, so I didn't really...
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed the books as a kid, and I think there's a lot into them, and I think you could make a fairly dark and interesting series. That is not what MTV did.
Yeah. Was it actually MTV?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was commentary. Ooh.
No, yeah.
That doesn't sound good.
No, it was actually MTV bought the rights and made it, and it was everything you think a show made by MTV would be.
I'm imagining that they take the character aside in a side room, and then they're like, I don't like this other character.
Yeah, it was like a combination of
the Real World. I'm just being funny now.
No, it was less Real World. It was more like what's the sparkly vampire one? Twilight.
Ooh.
It was like they took Twilight and tried to make it in a fantasy world.
Was Sword of Shannara meant to be like a YA lit thing?
No, not at all. First book is almost a direct copy of Tolkien. I mean, in the same way that Eye of the World is a lot like Tolkien.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's even closer to Tolkien. It's like between Eye of the World and Tolkien. And then Elfstones, he really started to go his own way and do his own thing. And it got interesting for a while. And they sort of tried to take that interesting part of it and do something with it. And it was just discoherent, mumbled.
Oh, that's so lame.
And all the characters were boring, teenage, angsty.
I'm looking up the synopsis of Sword of Shannara right now because I read this a long time ago. 2 major plots in a fictional world called the Four Lands. Shay Almsford.
He's basically a hobbit. Him and his brother are basically Sam and...
No, I don't remember any of this. I feel like this might have been the one... I think this is the one where I read a lot of the first book and I didn't like it, and I just didn't.
That's fair. But you should try book 2.
Yeah.
Because book 1 is like I said, a pretty much boring copy of, Lord of the Rings. And book 2 is like a generation later, and they have these things called the Elfstones that they just happen to get in the first one, and there's some really interesting stuff that goes on with
some magic quality,
a magic cloak, and there's demons, and they're like corrupting.
I can't remember, but I just skimmed the synopsis and remembered very little of it. So,
but yeah, go to Elfstones of Shannara, read book 2, and then book 3 is the Wish Song of Shannara. And that sort of makes a first complete trilogy. And then there's a second, it's like 4 or 5 books, which are, I believe, the Scions of Shannara.
Yeah.
So it's like the those who have inherited the power from the original trilogy. And those are fantastic. And then he goes off into what a lot of authors do, which is he starts to write a bunch of books that merge together and repeat the same characters and repeat the same plot points over and over again, and it starts to get pretty boring.
It sounds similarly named as, I read this series a long time ago. It was called Kushil's Avatar, I think was the first book. But that was all right. I think I read all the way through. Some interesting stuff. There's another thing that I found while wandering through the library. It's like, that's an interesting looking cover.
I did read that book, the first one. I don't think I read any of the others.
It goes on. It was I remember liking it. Of course, I could barely describe the plot to you now, but
Totally, I'm reading this summary and I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely read the book here, and I think I enjoyed it. But you're right, I don't remember all what happened.
honestly, the only fantasy series that I can think of that kind of revolves around the sexuality of the main characters.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to it, at least.
I think you actually recommended these to me. I think that's why I've read them.
Oh,
So, or I read the first one anyway. It like got on my list at some point.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just in a point where like I have a hard time reading anything that's not Wheel of Time these days.
That's fair.
Everything I compare to it is just inferior. With the notable exception of the stuff that I think Brandon Sanderson is doing.
Yeah.
Wheel of Time is comforting and familiar, and I'm fond of it.
Oh, yeah, and awesome and epic.
But I devoured Oathbringer as soon as that came out,
Yeah.
which you still haven't read.
No, I haven't.
We got to sit you down and make you read for like 2 or 3 weeks straight.
Yeah, I know. I have to. It's just I've been super busy, but I'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, well, you've picked up a lot of shifts,
Yeah.
which is how your schedule works, where you have like these waves of like working almost every day for like 2 weeks straight, and then working
like,
one day a week. Yeah. So it's boom and bust.
Oh, by the way, Kelsey T. Baldwin, I'm glad you agreed with me on that. I thought it was a really interesting, well-written way of making sexuality like a huge part of a series like this, because I feel like it would be really tempting to just make the series basically just erotic lit.
Right.
But it's not. It's not. And I feel like that's where, a lot of bad fantasy kind of goes. It's just like
A lot of fan fiction goes there.
super hot alien chicks, bro, and that's like all you get out of that,
And I'm going to yell at you to read Broken Earth again, just because Broken Earth is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Well, Seth has talked a lot about that. That's another one I've been meaning to get around to, but between Wheel of Time stuff, Mistborn, and work.
Yeah. How are you doing on Mistborn these days?
I'm like halfway through Wheel of Ascension.
Okay.
Next time I sit down for a day, because last time I sat down for a day, I just completed Mistborn, the first one.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, it's The Final Empire, I think, is the subtitle.
Oh, The Final Empire. Oh, that's funny. My copy just says Mistborn on it.
Yeah, I think they only...
Wait, that's your copy, isn't it? I think.
No, I loaned out my copy. That's my copy of Well of Ascension, your copy of Mistborn.
Oh, okay.
So it's Mistborn, The Final Empire is what they subtitled it once they started coming out with more books also in the Mistborn
Little
trilogy.
Confusing.
Yeah, so I think in the later copies it is subtitled The Final Empire. But yeah, I'm super excited to get started on the Mistborn podcast. I've been like chomping at the bit.
I really am too. We promised to release something 22 days from now because we're recording this on the 8th.
I'd like to get it recorded and released before we go to JordanCon.
Yeah, that way we can get a little interaction with people and stuff.
Point people to it and say, here's episode 0.
Yeah.
Get in on the ground floor.
We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about, and that should be pretty easy.
Yeah, we don't have to do too much prep for that.
Yeah.
But we keep, like I said, with your schedule being busy, it's been hard to coordinate a good time to sit down and do it. I finished the whole series, including A Secret History.
Ugh, I'm jealous.
I've had time to read, and then I went back and I reread The Dragon Reborn too.
Yeah,
from start to finish. So that was really helpful. I'm gonna try and do that. I think between each book is like reread the whole next book, because there's so many things that are relevant at the end of the book to the beginning, and so it's nice to have read the whole thing when we start.
Yeah. I've been trying to read it, like, as I read it, if there's anything that I don't understand, I don't bother, like, trying to leave it a mystery. I just look it up immediately. And, I mean, I've read the series already, Mistborn.
Mm-hmm.
To try to read it with as many spoilers included as possible so that when we start going back through it, when we come back to page 1 and start recording, I'll be pretty well-versed.
Yeah, I was absolutely doing that, too, the whole time, which was like, wait, I don't know, is this Miss Spirit Kelsier? Is it...
Oh, yeah. And, it's purposely confusing.
Yeah.
Way. Like, RJ does that a bunch.
But it's already, people have been able to figure out who's who, and so you can just look it up as we're going through, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what's going on. It's been fun to sort of reread the Mistborn trilogy with the same eye for detail that we've been using in the Wheel of Time, and sort of in my head treat it to the same analysis.
Totally. I just passed the part where Vin still thinks Orisor?
Orsur.
Question mark? Orsur?
Yeah.
Is Orsor, but he's not.
No, he's
Orsor's
Tensoon.
dead. Yeah.
And I'm really glad because I'm going to call him Tensoon because that's way easier to say. But yeah, no, that's a really cool one. And Tensoon I love Tensoon. He might be my favorite character.
I like the Mist Wraiths a lot, but we don't call them that. We call them
Khandra.
Khandra, who are like grown-up Mist Wraiths, essentially. Or spiked Mist Wraiths.
Yeah. They've been imbued with, investiture, basically hemalurgic spike.
Yeah. How do they do the spike? Because with humans, they nail it through a person into a person, right?
Well, that's with the Inquisitors.
Right.
So the Inquisitors, the spike goes through a Mistborn or Misting directly into the Inquisitor. And then you get their, basically, whatever power you pull out of them. And the placement and the type of metal matters.
Right. What about with the giant blue guys?
The Koloss. They get 4 spikes. But those spikes aren't made from a Misting or a Mistborn. They're actually made from regular human beings. And what they do is they pull out the part of preservation that is their soul. And then they combine that into 4 spikes into one person. And that becomes the Koloss. The Khandra, it's just 2 spikes. And they're made as a pair.
They would call one presence, and the other one...
There's 4 blessings, and each Khandra gets one of the 4.
Right.
So there's potency,
presence,
and I don't remember what the other 2 are.
Tensoon has both those.
Tensoon, he steals the potency one from Orsur. So Orsur just had the potency, Tensoon just had presence, and Tensoon killed him and took his, and so he had 2, which made him really powerful.
Is that why Tensoon can keep up with Vin as he runs through the streets?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, he's essentially a double spiked
super Khandra. A Koloss Khandra.
So I'm just getting deep into the magical systems and the 18 different metals. Yes, there are 18.
Yeah, I was looking into that.
Because it's the 16 normal ones plus the 2 god metals. The various pieces of the body, how they both have like, one has black smoke, the other one's the mist, one's atium, the other one's...
I forget what it's called. Luracium?
Yeah, Luracian or something like that.
But I'm not even at that point in the series yet. Right. We'll get there. And some of them you don't find out about until the second set, right?
Yeah, you don't find out about the last 2 normal metals until the second set of books. Those are the
Alloy of Law.
Those are the time bubbles.
Yeah. I read about them and I was like, I don't remember this in Mistborn.
No, it's not at all. And you haven't read Secret History yet either, where there's a lot of stuff revealed.
Or Alloy of Law.
You haven't read Alloy of Law either?
No.
Okay.
I'll just keep going.
Yeah, you should.
Because Alloy of Law is going to come up.
It will. But for the most part, I'm not too worried about... It is definitely a second trilogy, and while some stuff is callbacks, I don't think there's too much that flashes forward.
Yeah, I'm tempted to say that they're not connected, but like from what I've read, there's some connections, but there aren't really. Not between the characters in the books. Okay, no, that's also not true. But yeah. I think you know what I mean.
I do.
It's not one cohesive story.
No, there's a large, centuries time break.
Yeah, I'm aware, Sir Septon, of what's in Secret History, but I haven't read it myself.
I've been telling him about it as I've been going through it.
Yeah.
So he's sort of like, all right, I get it, shut up. But we're trying to spoil things as much as possible. So just so we have as many spoilers on our front of our minds as possible.
Yeah. So I'm going to read the whole thing. And then when we start at page 1, that's when we'll start recording.
I'm sure I'll start bringing up the 3 realms.
Yeah.
The cognitive realm, the spiritual realm, the physical realm, and how those interact. I'll be probably talking about how the spiritual realm that Kelsier goes into is very different from the spiritual realm in Stormlight, because in Stormlight it's all black beads. They're these little round glass beads that represent the souls of items. In Mistborn, it's all misty. It's like it's just two very different environments, even though it's both the cognitive realm, and it's because of how the people in the different areas think about the magic systems.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe by the time we're done with Mistborn, Stormlight will be done.
No. No, hopefully by the time we're done with Mistborn, the next book will be out. That would be nice. Maybe he finishes the first 5.
Does he have like a projected amount of books that are supposed
10.
to 10?
Yeah, and he's got a pretty strict outline, and he's very good about sticking to his book lengths. So, and it's supposed to be 2 groups of 5.
Cool.
So there's like a group of 5, and then like I think like a 10-20 year break, not specified, but basically long enough for some other kids to grow up and things like that.
Gotcha.
And time to pass, and then there's going to be another 5. Yeah, his plan is 1 every 2 years, but I think it's going to end up being closer to 1 every 3 years. So I'm guessing we probably won't see the end of the first 5 book for like another 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So
that's too bad.
And I think we're going to get Mistborn done in probably like 2 years, even if we don't go that fast on it. Although I guess we could do the second trilogy.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm thinking of when we finish Mistborn one day in the distant future. That begs the question, or do we want to do more Cosmere stuff? And the answer is yes, we want to do more Cosmere stuff.
Probably, yeah.
We want to, but we only want to do series that are complete.
Yeah.
Because then how can we spoil them if they're incomplete?
We don't want to be guessing at stuff.
No.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Cosmere stuff, but again, it's not complete, you know.
Oh yeah, we could do singles and stuff too. We don't have to do long series either. But once we're doing Wheel of Time and Mistborn, we probably won't want to be doing anything else until one of them's done, unless something kicks off and we start making a lot more money, and we can just do this in our for full time.
Yeah,
because if I could work on this for 8 hours a day and have that be affordable, then we could probably do 3 series.
Yeah. Plus bringing in some other people.
Yeah. For editing and things like that. Oh, Name of the Wind. Yeah, I would love to do that, but when the hell is that going to ever get done? I love that series. Yeah, I know.
We'll never do Game of Thrones either, because he'll never finish it.
Yeah. I particularly have a lot of love for The Slow Regard of Silent Things, which is like a sideline to... Did you read that, Seth?
Oh, yeah. I loved it.
It was
great.
Really good. I have never and can't think of any other novel that only has one character. I can't think of any except that one.
Nothing that's nearly as good.
I was blown away by that. And, Ari's weird and has a bizarre way of looking at things, and it's just really fun.
I'll have to do a reread on that. I've been waiting for his next book to come out before I go back and reread his stuff, but it's been such a long time that I've forgotten.
I have a copy. I lent it to Julia, along with Eye of the World. She took my copy of Eye of the World and then listened to the audiobook. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just glad you're into it.
Is she? Is it the one that's all marked up?
Yeah, she said it was partly marked up.
Okay.
Because I had 2 copies, and I think I picked up the wrong one.
Oh,
and I carried that around for like a week,
yeah.
And I was just like, oh, whatever, it's fine.
That's right.
I also buy my paperbacks used, guys. So they're $2 or $3 for a used paperback, and I just don't worry too much about it.
Yeah, the Eye of the World goes away. Eye of the World, people take it, it vanishes. I don't care. It's fine. Whenever I see a used bookstore, I always check for a Wheel of Time book. Always. And I buy them. The other thing that's coming up that I'm really getting excited for is this D&D session with some of the Chosen.
Oh, yeah. That is pretty exciting, and that's a project that I'm not really involved in at all, but it's been really fun to hear about it.
It's going to be run, the lore master is going to be Morgantini, who came and visited us.
Yeah, we
hung out with him that one night, so that was pretty fun.
Some beers and tacos.
Aradia, who you all know and love, is going to be on there. I think she's playing Dwarf. And Christini's going to be playing an High Elf. and then Fate hasn't finished his character sheet yet, and I'm doing a forest warrior
Human?
Yeah, so sort of an Aiel type, Alan Aiel combo
Cool.
character. And this is all done in Lord of the Rings, so it's in the time between The Hobbit and
Fellowship?
So it's between those, it's in that 90-year period of time.
Cool.
And we've given him some backstory, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do. We did a practice session just with pre-made characters a while back, and that was a lot of fun. And I did a really rough cut, and we got about 2 quality hours of us just hanging out and playing games, and it sounded like a blast.
These D&D and tabletop podcast type things are pretty darn popular. There are some really, really big ones out there. There's a ton of people. A lot of us nerds have grown up and we're still into it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and I started listening to Glass Cannon just to get an idea of what a D&D podcast sounds like.
Yeah.
And also just to help me pick up the skills and the various...
The guys on Glass Cannon are really good.
They're fun. And I'm
really
just enjoying it as a podcast. I see now why they're a popular genre.
It's fun.
You get to play D&D without doing any of the work. And you're listening, to people who know what they're doing and have the language down and are good friends and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think they threw some cool music in there. I listened to an episode or two when one of the chosen Morgantini came down from Washington and visited us in Portland. He was going to a Glass Cannon meetup. That's how I heard about it. So I went and listened to it. They're good.
Yeah.
And very popular.
I'm super excited because having met 2 of the 5 people who are doing it, and so those 3 of us have met, and it's we've hung out in this Discord channel forever, so there's a good chemistry there.
Where is Christine? Isn't she in the Midwest somewhere? Why am I thinking Midwest?
I want to agree with you.
Too far to just meet up.
Yeah, no, there's definitely no way she can get down. I have no idea where Fate is. And both Fate and Morgantini are experienced D&D players. So Morgantini knows what he's doing setting this up, and he's done a lot of work getting it going.
That's awesome.
And Fate, he'll be a good support character. And then sort of me, Christini, and Aradia are just winging it and learning as much as we can because this is new for us.
It'll be fine. And a lot of this stuff we've said about Watt spoilers that I think that it sounds good a lot of the time, recording equipment and space and everything, but also just that we're already comfortable with each other. We know each other.
Mm-hmm.
You can joke and stuff where it would be really difficult to do that with strangers. So it's it's really good that this is a group of people that hang out all the time anyway.
Right. We don't really have concrete plans to release it as a podcast at this point, but it's definitely a possibility, and we're sort of planning for it without committing to it.
Gotcha.
It's going to depend on schedules and how much content we can produce and the quality of the content. And
it's hard to get 5 or 6 people that live in different time zones together at any one time, even in a text chat,
Right. And there's always, the recording stuff and just time investment and deciding if it's worth it. But I really would love to be producing a D&D podcast beside the Watt Spoilers podcast, beside the Mistborn Spoilers.
And it's right up our alley. Obviously, a lot of people who already listened to Watt Spoilers and will probably listen to Mistborn are probably into tabletop too. These things all kind of go together.
Right. There's some overlapping interest going on there.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm just excited to play D&D for the first time in my life with a group of people. I've played a few times in my teenage years with a bunch of assholes, and never had the patience to really get into it beyond character creation and stuff.
Yeah, you need a good group of people, who can work well with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good group in high school that I got together with. I feel like part of the reason that worked probably is because we really didn't have a lot better to do as especially before we were driving. But even after we were driving, I played some campaigns that were really fun.
My issue, I always lived in places where to get anywhere you had to drive. And so before I could drive, it was very difficult to get anywhere on a regular basis and commit to something like a D&D group project, because I could like show up once, but then I'd have trouble showing up again on a regular basis.
Kelsey T. Baldwin just said you guys created a pretty sweet community out of us SWAT fans, and thank you.
I will say over and over again that we just tapped into an existing amazing community, and maybe brought some people together, but
yeah,
the community was out there, and we just were able to tap into it. I was thinking about this today. I really contribute a lot of the positivity on our network to the prevalence of women.
Yeah, we have. That still surprises me, because when you do fantasy sci-fi stuff, that I guess at least the stereotype is that it's all men, or like 90%, but it's a lot of the time our Discord server is like half and half, it looks like, which is cool.
It's definitely a Wheel of Time thing. It's not just the community. It's because of the way Wheel of Time, I believe, has always shown a bit of a balance of the genders, and it's always attracted a more heavily female audience than a lot of the other.
Yeah, and I think the way we present it.
Yeah. There's a lot of violence porn out there in fantasy novels that, frankly, is not very attractive to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I find Game of Thrones to be a lot of like revenge and
porny. No, it is.
Yeah, it's kind of violence porn.
I mean, there's a lot of that. When I first read it, I thought that was kind of cool, that I was like, oh, this is the first thing I ever read that's just like straight up incest, murder, torture. It's just right there in front of you.
Yeah, and it's not implied. It's just like that's what's on the page.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic and fairly groundbreaking at the time, but then it just got copied into the ground.
Sure, I've read a lot of other novels like that now. I'm thinking of like one that was called I want to say it was called Prince of Thorns.
Oh yeah,
is that it?
Yeah,
that was like brutal.
Yeah, there's a lot of brutal stuff out there, and that's just not what I enjoy reading. I don't feel like there's any subtlety to it.
No, there isn't. But it has its appeal. To me anyway, it has its appeal. Sure. Like just wild, endless action, basically. It's cool in its own right, but it's not as sustainable as something like Wheel of Time, as far as like
maintaining interest.
Yeah, and once you read your crazy battle scene violence porn or whatever, like, are you really going to read that again? Like you read it and you got to its conclusion, and it's like no longer really interesting.
Which is totally different than Dumais Wells, because Dumais Wells, although it is violent, and we all think of the Ashaman kill as just like this seminal moment, it's actually a lot of it is in Rand's head, and a lot of it is seen from a distance, and a lot of there's more going on there than just the meat grinder.
Yeah, a lot more. And I think that's also a scene that we all talk about in the Wheel of Time a lot, the Battle at Dumais Wells, because that it has that violence porn element.
Sure.
I'm kind of overusing this phrase, but it has that element to it, and Wheel of Time really doesn't have a lot of that.
It is a rare scene,
yeah,
where that happens.
Like Robert Jordan is rarely describing piles of bodies.
But I feel like that makes it stand out all that much more that, you're basically halfway through the series, 6 books in, before you get this, incredible violent conclusion. And then the next time you really have violence like that is the final battle.
Yeah, at least in so much, especially human versus human. Like, we see a lot of dead Trollocs.
Right. But they're basically automatons that we can, I'm sorry, Narg, but for the most part... we just don't care about Trollocs.
Were they talking about in Dark Friends Social before? A new show called Cooking with Narg. Don't ask questions.
Right. It's a roast of what?
A roast.
A roast.
Shut up.
Don't ask questions. Mm-hmm. I also like cast iron cooking with Mistress Luhan. Using the violence as a punctuation point or as a crescendo means that Dumais Wells is an incredibly memorable point in the series. Whereas something like Game of Thrones, I mean, maybe the Red Wedding, like I can't really point to like one instance of violence that I'm like, that was shocking more than anything else. That was
the Red Wedding, but
thing.
There's tons and tons of violence like that. But I mean, the Red Wedding's remarkable, because several main characters die.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess that, you could compare the last battle to that, but that's the end of the series, so.
Even still, the last battle, like, there's a bunch of Matt's perspective where he's like controlling events. Like, there's like viewing the battle from above through the horizontal gateways.
It's much more game-like than battle-like in some places.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of battle scenes, but I mean, the last battle's like hundreds of pages long. So.
Right. Well, and I like what the last battle does, where it sort of takes you in and out of the violence, and how there's calm spots in war, and spots where people are planning, and spots where like you almost can't even tell a war is going on.
Yeah.
But then there's this extreme violence going on elsewhere, and it's a more complete view of the world during a war. Whereas Game of Thrones always just feels like, and here's the battle.
Centered around, yeah.
I also wanted to say just like how awesome the episodes were that the girls did.
Oh, yeah. Those did really well. We noticed that they got more downloads than usual.
I think it's fantastic that they did that, and I definitely want them to do more.
Yeah, I think they're into it. But that was really fun. I'm glad we can do that with our podcast.
Me too. Yeah, there's nothing more fun than like building something that's moving and handing the keys over to somebody else and watch it go.
They did a really good job.
They did a
surprisingly stutter-free for two people. Well, I mean, neither of them were doing it for the first time, I guess, because they had both done episodes with us before they did one together.
Sure. But this is the first time where they were driving the conversation and steering it. And, before it was you and I talking, and they were also adding their feedback. Whereas
and
this, they had to like
it more.
Yeah. Whereas here they had their own subject spring. Anyway, they did a fantastic job. Is all I'm saying. Is like that was really cool to see and fun to edit and fun to listen to.
Yeah, it was.
I think
it was fun to just hang out here and be one of the listeners.
Have you guys all? Also, I want to shout out to John because his editing work, as always, is fantastic.
John Horrell, you're the man. Thank you so much. But yeah, that guy helps us a ton.
We wouldn't have the time to do what we do if he didn't put in a ton of work for us.
Yeah.
I don't think the quality would be as good either. He knows what he's doing around the audio. He's able to edit without like making it sound bad.
He's a professional.
Yeah, he's a professional.
This is really, other podcasters pay like $100 an episode to do stuff like have this stuff like this done.
Yeah. And John just does
John's
it
just
for
like,
us.
no, I like it.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me do it.
And we keep like,
just like, what? Really?
Are you
Thanks.
sure? Are you sure? Okay. Oh, so I asked for questions, just things to talk about, and I got some good ones. I wanted to know if you wanted to maybe go through those.
Yeah.
Just basically, folks on Discord, we asked if you had anything you wanted us to talk about, and got a fairly long list of things, some of which are kind of silly. So that's perfect. So Block on the New Kid asks, what are you most looking forward to in The Dragon Reborn? And is there anything you guys are dreading?
Dreading? As far as talking about?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say there's anything I'm dreading. I'm interested in how, this isn't Dragon Reborn specific, but I'm interested in how some scenes will go in the future, like Elaine's 7-page bath scene. What do we do for that,
I think there's going to be plenty to talk about. I'm really excited about getting into Teleron Riyadh. And like I've just reread The Dragon Reborn, and it is heavy on the Teleron Riyadh stuff. I mean, Perrin's in there, Rand's in there, Egwene is in there. They get the stone ring Terangrial from Varen. So
Kalimdor stuff.
Yeah. I'm really excited to get
stuff.
into how Teleron Riyadh works, and it becomes a sort of parallel communication network for them, which is just fantastic.
How does Dragon Reborn end? What is the last? Because for me, I know I've heard a lot of other fans say this themselves, that like the story of the Wheel of Time runs together in my head, and I often forget where one book ends and the other begins.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I just reread The Dragon Reborn, so that gave me a good idea of what it spans from beginning to end. but I'm actually really excited about how it expands the point of views. It's the first time where we are not primarily in Rand's head, and
Lots of Lanfear stuff too.
yeah, so much. I'm really excited to get into this one because, if I said that like the Great Hunt is where the story gets its feet, the Dragon Reborn is where it starts to run, and then I feel like it really hits its stride with the Shadow Rising. That to me, I think, is the best book in the series.
Yeah,
and then it spends some time doing some setup, and then you got this great Lord of Chaos and Dumai's Wells for book 6, which is fantastic. Book 5 can be a little slow for me at times. And then I feel like book 7 is a huge turning point with the crossing of the streams.
Uh-huh.
To me, that's like a seminal pivot point in the series.
I'm nodding.
When like the relationship between Rand and the Dark changes and becomes a little more symbiotic. And then I just feel like it's a slow build up until sort of get all the characters into place and have them do what they need to do for the last battle.
Mm-hmm. I'm chuckling at the next question. When are y'all going to consult the glossaries for pronunciation guides?
Yeah, I put that in there because I wanted to say never. I am never going to consult the pronunciation guides. I listen to the audiobooks. I do what I'll listen to you guys correct me, but I'm going to say how I say it. Deal with it. Ha. I'm working on Egwene.
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 Egwene. And not
Egwene. I was listening to the audiobook for The Dragon Reborn. Man, there's so many new terms in The Dragon Reborn that they did not have the pronunciation down for in the audiobook.
So they're wrong sometimes in the audiobooks.
Oh, they're wrong a ton in the audiobooks. Like Teleron Riyadh was totally different. I couldn't even tell you how they pronounced them because I'd hear them and I'd be like, what word is that? And I'd be like, oh, that's a new word for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they haven't nailed down how they're going to pronounce it yet. There's definitely different ways to pronounce these words if you're going by the audiobooks because they change.
We're pretty good. I'll let you be the judge of that. I'll let everyone else be the judge of that. I think we're pretty good.
I do too. Some people are definitely bothered by our pronunciations because they don't agree with what they think. But, that's we've picked something and we're sticking with it for the most part.
Yeah.
We're trying not to vary it up too much. You may not agree with us, but go back to what Brandon Sanderson said is like he doesn't really care how you pronounce the names. It's a book medium.
It's never really meant to. It wasn't intended for this kind of format.
Oh yeah, and I'm really excited for Post Healing Matt and the Lucky Knight is great.
But Post Healing Matt in general, just like through the rest of the series, will be really fun.
Yeah. And I feel like I picked up on a few things that on this read through that I hadn't picked up before.
Oh, and he beats up Gawain and Galad.
Uh-huh.
That'll be fun.
And I have been super obsessed with Egwene and Galad together because so far it seems like they're still destined to be together. Like all through the Dragon Reborn, they seem to be destined to be together.
Mm-hmm.
There's one point where Elaine sits down and says, "Oh, didn't you realize Gawain is totally into you?"
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's the first time that Egwene considers him. I think that's really when her mind changes. She considers him as a potential for the first time, but
yeah,
it's a definite changeover at that point. So there's already just having listened to it again, I've got 1,000 things. My mind's going on between the Mistborn stuff and the Dragon Reborn, because I feel like we've been on the Great Hunt for a while,
mm-hmm.
and we've sort of been getting to the end of that. But now with this new book and the new series and the D&D stuff, I am absolutely on an adrenaline rush of content, and I am stoked to get going on all this stuff.
Awesome, me too. Looking at the next.
Not to mention we've got the Jordan Con coming up in 11 days.
Oh yeah. Jeez. Can't believe we're going to be on a plane in a week and a half.
Hoping we're going to start recording The Dragon Reborn, but by the time this comes out, the next episode hopefully will be us live from Jordan Con. So that should be the next episode you guys hear. So I'm excited about it. We don't exactly know what we're going to be doing. It's a little bit of get there and see.
Yeah.
Simply because we really don't know what the environment's going to be like. We don't know who we're going to get a chance to talk to. We definitely want to have a meetup at a bar somewhere.
Totally.
Probably the night of the 20th, but that's going to be probably announced on Discord as to where we're going to meet up, just like that day.
It's just going to be so weird to be in a room full of people who are into the Wheel of Time. That doesn't happen.
No.
You know?
Well, I guess except when we got like Kelsey, a radio over, and then there was like 3 of us.
Well, then there was 3.
It's about as close as I can get to a room full. We couldn't get down there if you guys hadn't funded it, which, by the way, thank you so much to all the patrons who are sending us to JordanCon.
Thank you, patrons, for buying those plane tickets.
Yeah,
that's important to point out.
Definitely. That's where we've taken the last 2 months of donations, and it's just been fantastic that we're going to be able to do this, because I don't think we could have otherwise.
No, I don't think we would have made it. It's a big expense, you know. A couple $1,000 is breaks the bank for us. So.
And we're excited about next month. That'll pay for the hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a little bit left over too. That's true. We got an offer for someone who wanted to do a bit of an ad.
Yeah.
It's a tattoo shop. I don't know the details, but it's the guy who did Jeff Petries, who's on here all the time. You guys have seen him.
Finished it.
He finished it. And there's a video on Instagram that is fantastic. And I want to get him on here and have him do a little interview about the process, and talk to him about it, and talk about how awesome that tattoo is, and how, because the tattoo artists you said were fans of the series itself.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no better place to get a Wheel of Time tattoo than
I've been
at a
talking
place
to them for a while.
And they're in Georgia, so they're near the con.
Yeah, I think they're based out of Savannah, the shop.
What's the name of the shop?
I believe it's Red Ocean Tattoo. Let me look that up really quick. He's good.
I wonder if he's close enough to visit from the con, because he's in the same state.
I should ask him if he'll be there.
Yeah, that would actually be, because he could probably come in, just drive in.
I don't know Georgia very well. I'm looking it up. Oh yeah, Savannah's on the coast. Atlanta's like North Georgia.
I don't know the state at all.
The red dot, Savannah. You can see Atlanta in like the top.
Oh yeah, that is. Wow, Georgia's bigger than I thought it was.
It's a pretty big state.
I didn't realize it extended up that far.
Google says it's 3 hours and 48 minutes driving from the hotel.
You know, if he's a Wheel of Time fan, he might be making
Maybe
the drive
he'll be
anyway.
there.
Yeah, I mean that's not unreasonable. I can make that drive in a morning to go to the con.
Sure. I'll message him about it to see if he'll be there, because
Yeah.
that would be cool to talk to him.
That would be, yeah.
Interview him. Yeah, it'll be cool we can just get small things like that and just piece together a bunch of short interviews.
Yeah. Encourage people who were at the con who wanted a Wheel of Time tattoo to make the drive.
Yeah. To interview me while getting a Wheel of Time tattoo.
That would be really funny. Put the microphone on you for all the little like exclamations of pain.
You gotta do the whole interview early, because I'll tell you, after about an hour and a half of getting tattooed, I pretty much shut down. No longer interested in conversation. I just quietly breathe.
Yeah, I imagine you'd be in a lot of pain.
I've sat for probably 4 hours. I don't think I've ever sat longer than that. Maybe a little, but not much.
I'm putting a link into the Instagram video of the tattoo.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. There's no sound in this, is there?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, yep, there's sound in this. Okay.
But you can see it's some of the fantastic fan art I've seen put together in a really unique and interesting way, and it wraps all the way around.
I like that he has Ishmael on the back.
The Ishmael is fantastic. I think the Moraine also is really, really good.
Loyal.
Mm-hmm. And then it's got the sort of the 3 boys on top of each other.
Yeah, it's like so much color.
So, I'm
trying to think of how to explain the style. Like, very little outline.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really a full sleeve.
From wrist to shoulder, every inch all the way around.
Like, my sleeve is like a collection of things, and it is themed, but it's all outlines. My sleeve is all outlines.
And yours was done in a bunch of different pieces. His was conceived as a single sleeve from start to finish.
Yeah. Super cool.
But you can see why we're totally willing to accept them as sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that work is incredible. As everyone in Discord is saying as they watch the video.
And like if we're going to advertise anything, I would love to advertise for tattoo shops. Like
sure.
And like smaller stuff like that. You know, that's cool to do. I wouldn't be particularly excited about doing like, you know, I don't know, Postmates or whatever, you know?
Depending on how much they're willing to pay me, I will totally blow Postmates. But for the most part, I'd prefer to do something like this.
Exactly. And I'm right there with you.
So maybe we should cut that out. But when you hear us doing Postmates in a year, remember this. It's not selling out. It's making money off.
Isn't that what work is?
Exactly.
Selling your time out.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty stoked that we broke 20,000 downloads this past month.
That's true. Guys, we broke 20,000 downloads this month. And by that, I mean we got 20,000 downloads in 30 days, not 20,000 downloads total.
Right.
Which is a big mile marker for us.
That was something that early on when we were looking at like, what kind of size do we need to be to really reach out to advertisers and start talking to them? You know, it's been a year, so those numbers have grown, but I always thought that 20,000 downloads in a month was going to be a significant number for us.
But a lot of our listeners are international, which does not help us with the advertising stuff.
No, unfortunately, advertisers mostly just want to talk to the folks in the U.S. See, patrons, there's like 130, around 130 patrons.
I think it was 136 the last time I looked. Thanks, by the way, everyone in this room, because you're all donors.
Right. Yeah, no, you guys are fantastic. Let's go back to the questions. We had a few more.
Mm-hmm.
After reading this, did you expect to like any of the Sean Chan? And with the reread, does it affect how you feel about them overall? I do like the Sean Chan. I like them a lot. And
I like them because they're interesting,
yeah.
Not because they're nice.
Right, exactly. I'm not like they're good people. I like the Forsaken a lot too, but that's not because they're good people.
Right. Like I love Lanfear as a character, but she's an awful person.
Right.
And that's what I think Stone Dog was getting at in saying basically like, could you like the Sean Chan? And like as characters, of course, they're complex is the best way to put it. Like there's good and bad, and it's a culture of people. You can't say it's not black or white.
And there's no doubt that in America we live with a constant reminder of slavery and what that does to a society.
Yeah.
We can address the individuals as decent people in the society, even when the society is built around a flawed or deeply placed inequality.
Right. We've had this conversation a little bit before, and I'm hesitant to get into it too much, but there's like, interesting, I guess, arguments or conversations that I see happening quite a bit when people are discussing history, like specifically American history, but also, Roman history, Greek history, whatever. Lots of people have owned slaves over the time, and the slave trade has been many different types. There's many different variants over history, but like, it's difficult to, when you look back at something like this, and obviously the Sean Chan happened in a fictional people in a fictional universe, but like, can you them out of the context of their time? Like, was George Washington a terrible human being? Should we disregard other things that he did and said because he owned many slaves? Should we do that? Can we do? I don't know. The answer is I don't fucking know.
I think we can. I think we have to put them in their time and place. And we can say it was wrong for the society to be doing that. Doesn't make the people who involved in that society automatically bad people. They didn't necessarily fight against the bad thing. We cannot evaluate people outside of their time. You have to understand somebody's context. I feel the same thing is true for the Sean Chan, is you have to evaluate them in the context of their society. And like someone like Llewellyn, when she realizes the truth, really changes her behavior.
What happens when a Sean Chan lord or Sean Chan royalty, bucks the system, they get hung in a silk bag out of a window until they starve to death. Like, you can't really take them out of the context of their culture, because you also ask like how much of a choice do they have, and insofar as how much they participate in enslaving people.
And that comes back to the whole question of like, how do cultures shift? How do you change cultural norms and what's a currently accepted practice in a culture? And that's something that I think is a bigger topic than the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Not qualified to answer these questions. Please don't anyone on the internet think that we know what we're talking about, because we don't.
There was a great discussion about the testing. So I think this was brought up during Aradia's comments on how are young girls tested for Soldam and how are they tested for Domine.
Right. We talked about this in a little bit.
We did, but there was interesting new ideas that came forth. So there's really two ways you could test young girls for Domine. You could either lock the collar around their neck and see if it works, or just walk them past a channeler and see if the channeler senses their ability to channel.
When you do that, it's important to point out that the Damani senses a girl with a spark, not with any ability to channel. Right. So a collared Damani can sense a girl's spark.
And they know that that's what they're looking for.
Right.
I had always thought that there's no way they use the collar, because the collar would trap the Soldam as well, because they have the ability to channel. But Discord was pointing out that before, these girls have the ability to learn, but they can't actually channel. And so you can't force them into a link because they don't have the ability to channel yet. So you could actually probably use the collar to test for girls with the spark versus those with the ability. I think the collar would work on girls who had the spark.
But that's not how they do it, though.
But I don't think that's how they do it, simply because I don't think people submit to the collar.
They basically, all the young girls in a Shanshan village go to what I assume would be several linked pairs of Soldam and Damani. They're all there, so anyone with a spark can be sensed. All the young girls have the opportunity to put up on the bracelet. Mm-hmm. And if they can sense the Damani's feelings, then they're trained as Soldam.
I think the debate is between, do they test with the collar or do they just test with people walking by? And there was some interesting points on both sides of that I wanted to bring up.
I felt sure about that, but now I can't think of where we see that exactly.
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific example.
Oh, okay.
And so the reason the collar works on the Soldam is after they've been linked long enough to the Domine, it unlocks their ability to channel. I think they're just basically warders with a block in place, but they have the ability to channel. Mm-hmm. And they just don't know how to do anything. And so then when you put the collar on them, all of a sudden it works because they have that ability to channel sort of trained into them unconsciously, unlike totally untrained girls.
Right.
They've touched the source by proxy. I mean, they've been the controlling element in a channeling link
for many years.
It always makes me wonder if Soldam lived longer.
I don't know.
Don't think so. I think Domine lived for a long time, but I don't think the Soldam get the benefit of channeling.
Yeah, we know Damani do.
Do we see any old, in quotes, Soldam?
None that I can think of. But I mean, we don't meet a ton. I mean, a little bit, but we don't meet a ton in great detail. But we do with a couple of the Damani. She's like the oldest channeler in the world. Yeah. She's like 600 or something.
Something ridiculous. And she's the only one who's like more powerful than Nynaeve. Yeah.
Olivia,
that's right.
And I found it by going to Lanfear's page and looking at her strength and the power. Because Olivia is often used as like one of the markers of like the high end of female power. This wiki page says Lanfear is stronger than most females except for Olivia Semerhag.
Kansma asks, when do we think the Forsaken have been released? Do we think it was during the Flicker months?
Well,
I think it was when the seals break.
That would be the most logical.
Mm-hmm. Is that we've got a few of them out here in the beginning after the first seal broke in the Eye of the World.
Lanfear, Ishmael, Balal,
Agenor.
Right.
And then here, I think at the end of the Great Hunt, those seals break and releases the rest of the Forsaken.
Yeah, that would be the most logical.
They're either out already or they're released. I think they're released as the seals break. So I'm not entirely sure which ones get released when.
There's no way to really know when exactly they're released. Like we can say, like, for instance, when we were doing the patron only episode on Grandel, like I can see where her plot picks up, and like when we see her perspectives at first and when people are talking about her being around, but that's as far as we know. Like we don't know the day that she was released.
Full season between the end of the Great Hunt and the Dragon Reborn. So there's a full 3 months in there where the Forsaken, it's basically all winter, where the Forsaken could be, setting themselves up. And at the beginning of the Dragon Reborn, we see Morghese has changed her perspective a little bit on the Aes Sedai because Gabriel is, basically mind controlling her.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the Dragon Reborn, I definitely see evidence of the Forsaken being out in the world for some time. But it's hard to really know if that was during the months of Flicker or if it's during the months after the end of the Great Hunt. I think it's after the 2 seals are broken and the rest of the Forsaken get out.
During, like, around the time when the horn is first blown.
Between the beginning of the Great Hunt, or the end of the Eye of the Worlds, and the beginning of the Dragon Reborn. So the Great Hunt plus the 2 time periods on either side is a full year.
Yeah.
Which is the longest time period over any one individual book in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's only, a 2-year series. So yeah, they start after Elaine has gone to the tower, which means after the Great Hunt. So yeah, I'm firmly convinced that we saw those 2 seals break in the Great Hunt, and that released the rest of the Forsaken.
I would think so, if they're not out yet. But like I said, there's no real way to say.
But that's my headcanon, is that the 4 Forsaken were out from the breaking of the first seal, and then 4 more from the next one, and 4 more for the next one. And I guess maybe there's one who didn't get out quite yet. Maybe Demandred was stuck in for a while until the last one broke. Maybe that's why we don't hear from him for such a long time.
And Ishamael's first, because this is part of his 1,000-year cycle.
Yeah, he was never fully constrained.
Right. Only partly.
I wonder if that's the reason why he's always in a dream shard, is that he can't physically get into the real world until the seals break, because that he's partially constrained until the end of the Eye of the World.
Interesting theory.
That because, we see him in dreams, but we never see him actually enter the physical world. And maybe that's how he's one of the ways he's partially constrained, is that he can only influence the Black Ajah or something like that.
We do rarely see him in the real world.
Yeah. Almost never until he's Moradin. But I do think in the Eye of the World, when they fight, it's just in the world of dreams. Rand goes up those steps and enters the world of dreams. Baal-Zaman doesn't come out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's arguable whether or not we've seen him not in Teleran Riyadh yet. Even in the Battle in the Sky, that's what I'm saying is, like, even that's debatable.
Oh, yeah, because you could say the Horn was uniting Teleran Riyadh in the real world.
In the sky?
Yeah, no, it was in Teleran Riyadh, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Falron wants to hear us talk about power levels, but frankly, we just haven't done the research on it. I'd have to do some research before I talked about it.
Yeah, Falron, we don't know that much about that. The only way I can really know which characters are more powerful than the rest is because they're often, like, in the wiki pages, and knowing from having read the series a bunch of times, I know character A is less powerful than character B, who is less powerful than character C, who is more powerful than... And so based on that, I have, like, a rough idea, but it's very hard to say. Like, we talk about how powerful Lanfear may or may not be all the time, and I don't think we'll ever really come to a conclusion.
Well, I think that was Khan's mod. I've got my who said what is above and below, and so I'm, like, reading the wrong username for who said what on these things. Sorry about that. Bambi was the one who asked about the release of the Forsaken. New Kid on the Block was what you're most looking forward to. Jeff Dugan was the one who asked about the pronunciation guide.
Oh, and then it's just reversed.
And it's just reversed, yeah. So that's the problem, is I was doing it one way and then I reversed it, which threw me off. Falron actually asked, I'd love for there to be a discussion on how Gwen's time with the Shan helped strengthen her and prepare her role as a Wise One's apprentice, and later when they're trying to break her in the White Tower.
We've talked about this a good bit in previous episodes, well, a little bit at least, where Egwene's time with the Shan, this is a big moment for her because of the stretching, where a new channeler that's forced to try harder learns faster and they grow faster toward their potential in the power.
I also think it has a lot to do with her mental discipline, and her determination to not be taken prisoner again is a lot of why she gains power as quickly as she does, is she really does not want to be put back in the situation where she doesn't have the power to protect herself. And so that's driving her to learn as fast as she possibly can.
That's very true.
I think that's why she's always driven to learn more, is because she does not want to be vulnerable. Basically, she wants to be the person in the White Tower with Sora's Sa'angreal blasting rocket out of the sky, not the girl cowering in the corner with a collar around her neck.
Yeah, this changes her attitude in many ways. I feel like I would also like to point out that, and I think of this as in some of my life experiences sometimes, where, you go through a hard thing and then later on your perspective is changed forever. So things that aren't as hard as that never seem like as big of a deal ever again.
Right.
You can always kind of be like, you remember that time where I was enslaved and tortured when I had to live with a collar around my neck? Of course, that never happened to me. But Egwene has that perspective. Like, she has that real world experience. So after that, like, being beaten with a ruler is like, whatever.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Shuri's a paddle or whatever it is. She just lived through the sensation of being boiled alive.
Right. And survived it and didn't break.
Yeah.
And it just becomes practice. I mean, it's, she is in so much pain for such long chunks of time. She becomes capable of ignoring it and locking it away.
Yeah.
And I think the Shan experience was her first step down that road.
I was saying this a bit when we were talking about her experiences, but just that I see these moments, these big moments, as like heat that tempers the metal that Egwene will become. She's getting stronger and stronger each time one of these crazy events happens.
Also more brittle.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But she's getting harder, tougher all the time. And the Shan, like, there's stretching, which I mentioned, but they teach her battle weaves that nobody else really seems to have.
Yeah, or isn't at least willing to teach her. None of the Aes Sedai are going to show her how to, like, blow up the earth.
Right.
She probably embodies the most knowledge in any one person from all the various different cultures, because she
as far as knowledge and the power, other than the Forsaken.
I think even more than the Forsaken, because she learns a lot of the Forsaken tricks through Moghedien.
Yeah.
And there are things that the Shan and the Wise Ones have thought of, that, the whole bonding ceremony for sisters.
Right. There are things that she knows that the Forsaken don't.
Right.
Plus, when you consider Quendiar creation, yeah, the Sea Folk weather stuff, but also the dream world stuff.
Right.
She becomes a really powerful dreamer.
She's also an incredibly powerful dreamer.
And prescient as well, which is something we don't really see Perrin taking advantage of very much. But Egwene is able to tell things about her future when she dreams.
I mean, she's at least able to predict the assault on the White Tower by the Shan.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, there's a great scene in Dragon Reborn where she, like, goes through all her dreams, and every single one of them is a foretelling of the future. And some of them are foretellings in Towers of Midnight and A Memory of Light. So nice. A lot of those things that she foretells don't happen until later. I'm excited to get to that little scene.
That's awesome. That's so funny that the cast iron pan has become like a meme in the server.
I got really excited about the cast iron stuff.
I know you do.
I love cast iron, man. It's a great cooking surface. Kelsey has another question. Kelsey Baldwin. I had a question regarding your talents episode. Do you consider Elaine's proficiency in creating duplicating Angreal as Yes, I do consider it a talent. I absolutely consider her proficiency.
Yeah, not everyone can do that.
And then I also think it's interesting that Rand gave them this seed ter'angreal, which means, isn't it? So it takes a ter'angreal to create angreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Rand tells her how to make them right before he takes off for the Blight. It's like the last piece of information.
How to make Angreal.
And he gives her the seed. And it's like you have to put your power into the seed for a long period of time to create the angreal. So it like leaves you weak for a period of time, which is why they're hard to create. And I've always thought a Saw angreal was created in the same way, but instead of an individual doing it, it would be a circle. And that's why they were even rarer, is it would be so hard to get a circle to agree to put all of their power into a seed for an extended period of time, and then only one of you gets to use it.
Yeah.
My headcanon is that Saw angreal are created by circle, and angreal are created by an individual, but they're created in the same way.
I like that.
And ter'angreal can be created at a whim, but you need the talent. And there's a very specific ter'angreal that creates angreal and Saw angreal. This will be episode 99, and then episode 100 is going to be live from JordanCon.
Crazy.
Guys,
I can't believe we're actually going to be there.
I can't believe that it's going to be crazy. It's going to be episode 100 on our 1 year anniversary at JordanCon live.
I'm sure we'll be wanting to spend some time in Discord too, because we can just talk to you guys about what we did that day.
Totally.
And we can make that part of episodes too, you know. We've never done anything like the JordanCon episode before.
No. And one a book is fine for the tangent episode.
Yeah.
I figure that's every 50 episodes or so, one random.
We'll only subject you to this once every year or so. Twice a year, maybe.
Well, and it's nice for us to just get a chance to sit back and talk about where we are and the state of the podcast and the state of the books and what our plans are. And
we got to talk about the Mistborn stuff.
Yeah.
And
just thank everyone who's helping us. It's been a cool experience. And I guess I want to thank everybody out there who listens. You know, we've thanked our patrons a lot because they do support us financially, but everyone out there who listens, who downloads, you've just done fantastic things for us. I mean, every download is counted. We love it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening in general. But hey, if you don't have cash or you don't have the spare cash to buy us a cup of coffee, you can do stuff like subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our stuff there, which are just recordings of episodes. That's the only reason we put those there. Just we had some requests. People wanted to listen on YouTube.
Yep.
You can write us a nice review in iTunes.
That's always fantastic. I know what I've been hearing from a lot of people is they find us through just doing a search on iTunes for Wheel of Time. And so a good rating on there makes a huge difference for people finding us.
Yeah.
Huge.
You can also write us a very kind email, which a lot of you do. And that's really, really nice.
Oh, I always appreciate that. But I figured I would actually read a couple of the reviews that we've gotten over time because I want to encourage people to review, so I'm going to put a couple out there.
Okay.
Someone named Murdral. It's fun. Great guys. They've come really far since the beginning of their podcast. I mainly listen while I'm swimming in the mornings, and I'm always learning new things. I thought I knew everything after reading the series 7+ times. These guys bring up really good points and theories that I've never thought of myself. # Nynaeve shot first.
Just one of our early theories. How does he listen while swimming?
I assume waterproof earbuds, and I've seen little waterproof MP3 players.
Cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. And then you get like earbuds that go in, and I haven't looked at the technology in a while because I can't swim anymore because I tore my rotator cuff. But I was a huge swimmer for a long time, and in the days before MP3 players, and I desperately wanted to find a way to hook up a CD player to like my swim cap or something so I could like listen. There's no way to do it.
Yeah.
But with new MP3 players, I've seen them. I've seen little tiny ones that you like basically strap onto your goggles in like the back of your head, and then like they have this little wire that comes down into your ear, and they're really neat. Now with like Bluetooth headphones, I bet you could like do Bluetooth headphones in your ears and like have the phone sitting on like the edge of the pool or something.
Probably. If the headphones were waterproof. Yeah, you could definitely. I used to do laundry in my old apartment. I would walk down the stairs, go into the basement, and just leave my phone plugged in upstairs. It didn't matter because I was in the same building. I was directly below where my phone was, so it worked fine.
JF140 says, the best sheep herders you'll find. Was starting my fourth listen of The Wheel of Time and decided to see if there was a podcast that tore the series apart to listen to while I did. Seth and Patrick do a great job making it fresh again. Timber also has great thoughts. Get your Wheel of Time fix with a dash of beer recommendations. What more could you ask for?
We haven't done a beer recommendation in a while. We should do that more.
We haven't been drinking that much during the recording sessions.
That's true.
Neil G. Williams writes, compelling listening for any Wheel of Time. If you are a fan of Wheel of Time, you will adore this podcast. Seth and Patrick dive headfirst into the intrigue and behind-the-scenes plots and myriad storylines that make Wheel of Time the finest example of epic fantasy ever written. You should also subscribe because the more followers the podcast acquires, the more its hosts are guilt-tripped into putting more and more effort into making this already great podcast even better. A perfect positive feedback loop.
I remember that one.
That was good. Bloody Moo Moo writes, WOTWOO, word. He gets the award for shortest review. Great. Was FHKINBG writes, great podcast, some top-level Ashaman, really know their stuff.
Thanks.
My T-Thor writes, great stuff, deep dive, read the glossary for pronunciations. Only complaint. And then there's a bunch of other ones, but I think that's good enough for now. I just wanted to read a few of those out and say thank you for those of you people who have rated. And those are U.S. only. I know there's a bunch of international reviews. I'll have to get to those. They're a little harder for me to see because I have to log into the international store, which is complicated. So I don't always check up on those. But I know you guys are not just writing reviews in the U.S., so I appreciate the international ones as well.
We appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening so far.
Thank you, and good night.
Night. But I feel like I'm going crazy. Do you smell like pesto and lemons? Am I going nuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's one of the neighbors is cooking.
One of the neighbors is cooking. And the smell is getting down to us in the
Just
basement.
like, are my clothes that disgusting? Let's just smell like food.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?